In this episode, I give you a few more details about the 2015 Ford Mustang EcoBoost, and we do an unboxing for its very first mod. Welcome to the channel. My name is Grant Tommy. This is Straight Six Fan, where I like to focus on budget-minded, relatable, creative builds. A little something I like to call offbeat hot rodding. And today, hopefully you guys enjoyed the little trailer I did for the 2015 Ford Mustang EcoBoost last week. I know I didn't give a whole lot of details there, but as the intro screen said, we do have an unboxing to do for its very first mod. However, I did want to take just a little bit of time talking about the EcoBoost, give you guys a few more details. Now, you might be wondering, how is this budget-minded, relatable, or creative? So let's get into that. Well, I don't know how much you guys can hear the rain or not, but it is coming down here now. It is Saturday, May 18th, and anyway, I'm pre-producing, or batch producing if you will, so I can have this up for you guys on Tuesday. But anyway, let's start testing out the EcoBoost for, my tagline. So first off, budget-minded. Yeah, now budget-minded was always going to be the hardest one to sell, because obviously whenever you throw out that term, budget-minded, everybody's in a different spot. So it's always going to be a relative term. Now what I will say is, the way my wife and I have bought cars, we've been married almost 11 years now, and the way it just has kind of worked out naturally is we buy one car that's about 4 years old when we buy it, and then we run it 4 to 5 years, sell it, and start over. And then what I drive as my daily driver to work is typically about 10 years old when I buy it, and then I drive it, that's probably keep it for a similar amount of time, 5 years. The Jeep withstanding us, actually, because it was just getting too expensive to maintain. But so this was always going to be, whatever this car was going to end up being, was going to be in the same price range we bought this in. So we were going to spend that amount of money regardless. So in that case, you saw what we drove last, which was a Ford Taurus. So if you think you can purchase a Ford Taurus, I will say, if we weren't shopping in the convertible market and also didn't want the premium package, you can get a similar mileage. We bought this with 72,000 miles on it. You can find EcoBoost Mustangs in the same year range at the base model, the same mileage range, for as low as $13,500. So for me, again, look, everybody who's watching this video, I know your pocketbooks are at a different spot. So, but I do think don't think $13,500 is that far out of reach for a good amount of people. But I also know there's a good amount of people it is out of reach for. So let's go on to the next one. Okay, so let's talk relatable. Is the 2015 Ford EcoBoost Mustang relatable? And that, I think the answer is an absolute yes. Because as we roll off the budget-minded conversation, some of you guys have already answered that question for yourself. $13,500 is not something I could afford. Obviously, we spent a little more because we went with the convertible and premium package, but I bet in the same conversation, even though you may have said that's out of my price range, you may have said, but I think I can relate to that. My wife and I set aside money, of course, at 1/3. Okay, so 1/3 of the cost source came from selling the Taurus. 1/3 came from we saved up until we had a certain amount of money that we knew was going to be 1/3 of our price range, and then we took a loan out for the final third. So that's where I think this car is relatable, because I don't think when I explain that, a lot of you guys think, okay, well I could see myself doing that. I could do that. We saved, let's see, for the better part of, at least 9 months is what we were saving up for, kind of projecting out. We knew we wanted to buy a new car, and yeah, things got in the way. There were times we couldn't put as much into savings as we wanted. But the other thing is that by buying the EcoBoost instead of a GT, obviously insurance rates are going to be lower. And so that's where I think it's relatable. I'm not pricing this car. It's a fun car, it's an awesome sports car. I've only driven it like 3 or 4 times, but man, I'm telling you, this is a fun car to drive. Get yourself, if you're even on the fence about a Mustang, if you've always wanted a Mustang, these are great entry-level cars. I mean, they have plenty of zip, pep, whatever you want to say to them. They're fun cars. By those qualifications, I believe this is a very relatable car. And so all we're left with now is the creative side of things. So now you're wondering, how is the EcoBoost creative? Well, it's the EcoBoost. You know, everything about the Ford Mustang's history has been, it's smaller package, it's being lightweight, and then its performance. You know, it's not one without the other. But for the most part, while in 1964.5 you could get a straight 6 in the first Mustang, you know, Ford's always offered not just a V8 in the platform, but also a second engine option. And the EcoBoost, being the turbocharged 4-cylinder, is creative. You get 310 horsepower out of not the most conventional package. And so that's where I think, again, if there are channels out there, for instance, like Watch My Eco, who are dipping into the 11-second quarter-mile times, getting dang near 500 foot-pounds of torque out of these motors, and so they're doing some really impressive things. And you know, the mainstream approach would be just buy the GT, get that V8 package. But when you have to operate in the budget-minded, relatable field, you also get creative. So the EcoBoost to me is exactly why it is creative. So anyway, over time I will be doing some mods to the car, but let's get to the unboxing. As you can probably see, we went to late model restoration for this mod, and no further ado, alright, so a box in a box. So what we have here is a catch can by UPR, and it is a 2-valve catch can, which means it will catch blow-by from both the normal intake direction as well as the reverse. Being a boosted motor, you know, the motor's constantly going back and forth between boost and vacuum. If you don't know what a catch can is, so there obviously is the majority of the business happens here, but you can see now I've got the 3 different male ends, if you will, and all this tubing. But whenever the PCV valve or PCV, whatever, it basically returns you know, unburnt fuel back to the intake. Well, all the while, sometimes you pick up oil particles with it, and so this separates oil out of that returned air and just collects it in this can, so that way you don't get oil buildup on like valves, intake valves, and things like that. I guess, again, I'm no tech expert here, but from what I understand, it's even more prevalent or less likely to happen in the EcoBoost, the direct injection style motors. So just for longevity of the motor, this is why I bought this right out of the gate. I must say I'm blown away by the quality of not just the hoses, but the fittings and the whole package of this setup. Now they do include this goes on the intake elbow, so they give you a little silicone hose that you can basically put in between your stock airbox, so you don't have to modify the stock airbox at all. On down the road, if I get a new air intake tube, I will probably ditch this and just drill into that tube, but keep the stock stuff stock, so if a dealer gives you a kind of flack about not having something stock, you can easily, UPR made this where it's easily to quick disconnect everything so you can revert back to stock easily. And then lastly, the catch can itself, just nice kind of built aluminum construction, nice thick flange. This basically just will mount under your strut tower brace or strut tower ground, like so, and then you just hook up some hoses. So anyway, we'll do an install on this later on down the road. One real quick note about late model restoration. There are like 3 big Mustang parts wholesalers, distributors, whatever you want to say, parts houses, there we go. And I did a lot of research looking at all 3 of them, but I just decided to pull the trigger and working with LMR. And I gotta say, even just for a first purchase standpoint, their website was super user friendly, and 2-day free shipping on orders over, I think it's $79. And then they also give you the a little email that's a package tracker, like already built into the email. You don't really even have to go to a different, well, there probably is a different link in the, anyway, I'm just saying, not like any of those 3 things are unique to them or anything, but I was kind of blown away that like all 3 of those existed in my first experience. So that's what's been fun about buying the EcoBoost, is I realized I have a whole new market I need to get familiar with, and I gotta say, out of the gate, LMR, very impressed. So lastly, let's talk a little bit about the mods. I'm calling this Project 13 going on 30s, which is going to stand for, my goal or my hopes is to run a 13-second flat quarter mile while also getting 30 miles to the gallon in this car. And I will tell you, we are very close on the 30 miles to the gallon. Now, to get to the 13-second quarter mile mark might be a little more difficult. And the reason I say that is because most people who I know are in that range have a computer tune. And well, unfortunately for the 2015 model year, these are the most susceptible on paper to this eco-boom phenomenon, which is basically blowing the motor. Don't know, it hasn't been a widespread enough thing to make it a recall, but it also seems to be, if it happens, it's usually when people have put aftermarket tunes on their cars. So again, since this car has to hold up for us for 4 to 5 years for our, for our investment, I've just made the decision I don't want to put a tune on it. For right now, the catch can's the only mod this is going to get for a while, just because it's a monetary thing. I gotta pay that last third off, we talked about, before I can just feel good about myself dumping money into this thing. Unless I can, unless it's something I can tie to a regular maintenance item. For instance, they say you're supposed to keep up on spark plugs on these more than a regular car. In terms of a regular maintenance schedule, anywhere from 15 to 20,000 miles is kind of what they recommend. And so I might upgrade spark plugs or something, but that's really, it's not like I'm going to be knocking 1/10 of a second off of a quarter mile time with spark plugs. Air filter, next oil change if I can upgrade the air filter. But again, we're not talking about large performance gains. So when I stop and think about it, really about the only thing I'm going to do to it is an airbox upgrade. I'm already doing the catch can. And we'll be doing a little bit of ignition upgrade. MSD makes some better coil packs, so eventually I will do those. And then now this one's going to be the trickiest to do, but number 4 would be an aftermarket downpipe. Truth be told, I don't like how exhaust systems sound on 4-cylinder cars myself anyway, so I don't really want a different exhaust note. But again, since it's the wife's daily driver, absolutely heck no is her opinion on that. So I've seen people have done the aftermarket downpipe and kept the stock exhaust, and they basically say it really doesn't get any louder from stock. So that's something that I'll probably do, but we're I don't know, years on down the road. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. This is probably a lot longer than I anticipated it would be. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Don't really care which one you do, as long as you do one. Reminder, if you want to see what kind of merchandise I have, what kind of special t-shirts I have to show the rest of the world that you too are a Straight Six fan, there's a link to my Spreadshirt store below. That'll do it for this episode. Until next time, peace out.